Hi and welcome back to my channel. In today's video you have my September wrap-up. This is going to be short and sweet. Yes, I sound still a little bit gravelly on the tail end of that cold and it's first thing in the morning, so hence the bags under the eye. What can you do? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the various categories and statistics. I'm not going to go through necessarily all of the statistics. I did forget to print that out for myself, and so I don't have it memorized. I did read 29 books this month. I don't know how I did that, probably mostly audiobooks. I do remember 15 of those were audiobooks, 13 were physical, and I believe 2 were ebooks, if I remember correctly, but who knows. So I'm not going to go through those statistics this month. I am, however, going to talk about the different lists, keep up with that, then go into my star ratings, and then give you my best and my worst books of the month. So without further ado, let's start with Buzzwordathon. For Buzzwordathon, the buzzword was something to do with games, and it was supposed to be in the title. And I have this copy of Spellslinger. I think it's the British copy actually has playing cards on the title, and that's what I used to fit this book into that word for Buzzwordathon. And also games are the playing cards are a prominent feature of this book. Next we have my 23 and 23, and for that, unfortunately I didn't have much success with these two, but I had an Enchantment of Ravens and Out of Darkness. Then when it comes to continuing a series, I had 2 books in that category, House of the Red Fish and The Memory of Souls by Jen Lyons. And then finishing a series, I have Stolen Magic by Gail Carson Levine. Don't know why I told you the author there. I haven't told you for any of the others. Oh well. As far as starting a series, I have The Bone Season. This was the official starting of the series. I will mention a few other series that I started, but won't be continuing. Next we have my nonfiction. One of those was an arc that I have and do not have physically, Punished for Dreaming, and the other is Waco. As far as SCASL books, I actually had a lot of those. Several of them that I do not have physically. I had Vinyl Moon, Linked, In the Wild Light, You'd Be Home Now, All of Us Villains, The City Beautiful, Playing the Cards You're Dealt, Wild River, and Rivals. I made significant progress on SCASL books this month. That was one of my goals. Well, last month. This is coming out about halfway into October, but what can you say? And then when it comes to book boxes, I'm briefly going to go over those because they have their own separate video. For Book of the Month, I had Other Birds. For Fairy Loot Adult, I had Immortal Longings. For comics, I had Parachute Kids. For Caffeine and Legends, I had The Malevolent Seven. For Illumicrate, I had The Red Scholar's Wake. For TBR, I have Blood and Ink. The last of the Aardvark books, I have How Can I Help You? And for regular Fairy Loot, I have The Ones We Burn. Now, as far as the other series started, 3 of my BookBox books did start series. The 2 of them that I will not be continuing in those series are The Red Scholar's Wake and The Ones We Burn by Rebecca Mix. Again, I randomly say author sometimes. Who knows why. The one, however, that I will be continuing is Immortal Longings. Next, I will give you the star ratings and talk about my best and worst books of the month. Okay, so in star rating order from lowest to highest, here are all the books that I read in the month of September. Starting off with the lowest, Wild River at 2.5 stars. Then we move into the 3-star category, and there we have Out of Darkness, The Ones We Burn, How Can I Help You, and Rivals. Next we move into the 3.5-star category. And there I have 2 books that I do not have physically, All of Us Villains and The City Beautiful. And we have Stolen Magic, Blood and Ink, The Red Scholar's Wake, The Malevolent Seven, although as more time has passed, I think I was not as generous with this rating as I should have been, so this may actually be a 4-star. And then Enchantment of Ravens. Next we have my 4-star reads. Of those, one of those I do not have physically, and that is A Benny Song. Then we have House of the Red Fish, The Bone Season, White Sand, and Waco. Next we have my 4.5-star category. Of those, I have 3 that I do not have physically. I have Punished for Dreaming, In the Wild Light, and You'd Be Home Now. Physically, I have Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, Parachute Kids, Spellslinger, and Immortal Longings. Lastly, we have my 5-star category. I had a lot of really good books that I read this month. Although interesting, they ended up bookending the month. At the beginning of the month, I started with Linked. At the end of the month, I had Vinyl Moon. Then also at the beginning of the month, I had The Memory of Souls, Other Birds, and then again at the end of the month, I had Playing the Cards You're Dealt. When it comes to best and worst book of the month, there is no doubt in my mind as to what the worst book of the month is. Wild River. If you go back to the recent reads where I talk about this, not only is it a survival type story that I don't like in general, but it's also not done well. The characters do not read like middle school students. They also do not act appropriately for the situation that they're in. And yes, I know that everyone in those situations is not going to act the same, but there is a level of seriousness that you think that someone would take when they're out stranded and they've seen people die. And some of these kids don't act that way. They act much older than they are, and serious stuff is treated with video game seriousness, and I just did not like this book at all. When it comes to the best book, it is really hard for me to decide because so many of these books were just amazing. And I think I'm actually going to have it tie with 3 books. You know, I can't choose. So any of my 5-star books, I'd say, were the best of the month. The 2 that I do not have physically, Linked, that is phenomenal. I even recommended it to my mom. Vinyl Moon, that one took me completely by surprise and is just a stunning book. Same with Playing the Cards You're Dealt. I know I've read Varian Johnson before and knew that he could deliver, but he did it again in this one. Other Birds is just so wholesome, and it was just a warm hug of a book, and it's the way that Sarah Addison Allen explored how people deal with grief and moving on from that. It just was so well done. And then of course, how can I forget The Memory of Souls by Jen Lyons. Now this is not my favorite out of the 3. I think the second one, no, this is my favorite out of the 3. What am I thinking? I don't know. This one, I love this series. It's so confusing. It's so complicated, complex, and just absolutely amazing that Jen Lyons can put all this together and it all makes sense. It's just phenomenal. So there you go. So I have to say, the fact that I cannot choose which is the best out of 5-star reads, 2 of them I don't have here, and I had an obvious standout worst book, clearly I had a much better reading month. Thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one.